I like it when we start a show, a really live show on Pro Cannabis Media on a Friday afternoon. And I know that my director, Dan French, is smiling going into the production. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Green Rush Live, our regularly scheduled cannabis business talk show that we do every Friday afternoon here on the Pro Cannabis Media Network. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media. Always happy to have my pal Josh Kincaid as we go coast to coast. He's in Washington State, and I'm on the East Coast of in Massachusetts. And we're so happy to bring on a guy that I think a lot of people, anybody in the industry who doesn't know who George Jage is shouldn't be allowed in the industry. He's the founder of MJ BizCon and MJ Unpacked. George, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Well, that's very humbling introduction, Jimmy. It's always great to see you and Josh. I was not the founder of MJ BizCon. I took over when it was MMJ Business Daily, and they did a trade show at a racetrack, and did run it for a couple of years. But people get confused because I was the face of the company and built it up. But thank you.
And by the way, that's the second time I've done that same thing because it's assumed it's one of those like in law, they have de facto and then they have, the reality. And the reality is, George, you took it to a whole new level. That's another story. All right. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your humbleness and everything. Let's talk about MJ Unpacked in New York coming up in a few weeks. And how excited are you?
Oh man, super excited. Building a trade show and creating an event, and it's really about, creating a community. It takes a little bit of time. It was really only about 18 months ago that we launched our first event, and everybody was texting me from Benzinga that everybody's saying that the three most important shows in the industry are MJ Biz, MJ Impact, and Benzinga now, and have really kind of separated themselves, I think, from a lot of the smaller shows that are kind of servicing, these state markets, or going into early stage markets. But again, like super excited, like you kind of have these catch fire moments, like when you finally convince people like, hey, we've created something really exceptional here and this is worth your time. And win those, kind of minds and hearts over and everything else. And it takes time. And we've got a great team of people. Obviously, Wendy from my team, my wife, Kim, Morgan, Spencer, that are working their asses off every day to make sure that this is the best one yet. The timing, I think, couldn't be better. It's an event that obviously, we curate the audience so that it's executive level decision makers that are licensed operators. So it's not a bunch of people looking for a job or kicking tires. And we also let accredited investors in. But the time, so it's the right show, it's the right place, it's the right audience, the right people in the room. And we couldn't be more excited. But thanks for asking, Jim.
Is the Bang Gong going to be there?
Well, we actually took over more space at the New York Hilton. So the exhibit halls are in what they call the Americas Hall, and there's two floors kind of mirrored on top of each other. So we actually have two gongs this year.
Oh, two gongs. Oh my God.
So there'll be a gong on each floor. The gong's going to definitely be going. We always try to throw some kind of unique things in there to kind of, create a little bit of entertainment value. Got a few other tricks up my sleeve, but we'll let the attendees see it when they get the show site.
There you go. Josh, I know you got a bunch of questions. I'm going to let you take over for a few minutes here as I try to fight the nausea that I'm fighting right now. And that's not because either of one of you, I just don't feel well today. So go ahead.
Cannabis is good for that, Jimmy.
At 4:30.
That's actually where Jimmy and I met was there. So out in Vegas.
Right. Your first one.
Which kind of ties that all together because it is one of those shows that will kind of seems to want to live for a lot longer than some of the other ones. CannaCon, for example, based in Seattle, not really relevant outside of Oklahoma. It seems like what we noticed early on with CannaCon was a pay-to-play system at the speaker level. You don't really see that too much at the successful levels. So the top three shows you mentioned are about value. And I think you've been able to do that, George, is offer value. It's kind of like that Gary V jab, right hook. It just comes naturally if you provide value. There's a lot of things that started in Seattle that are no longer here that I wish were, but they were more about how do I make money? And it's like, no, you have to offer value first, and then the money should follow. And if you're only looking at money, you're not going to be around very long. And that equation, unfortunately, is played out way too often. And that, I believe, is your secret sauce and why the three of you being Benzinga, MJ Impact, and MJ BizCon are leading the pack and kind of differentiating yourself.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not here to kind of put people down or anything else, and I think each event kind of has their own kind of unique flair and everything else. But yes, I mean, this is something that I am very critical of other events, that they're just in it to sell a booth and sell a ticket. I say that they're in the real estate business trying to sell 100 square feet at a time, not really care. And I mean, I built MJ BizCon, and I was hoping to, take that to a different level at one point, but we parted ways. But I mean, that show is that way. I mean, they just care. Like, they had 125 packaging companies at the show. I mean, I highly, highly doubt that there was anybody in that organization that took the time to really assess, is there enough buying power coming in, looking for packaging, buyers that are coming to our show that would be able to create a good return on investment for them. And so, we did kind of, look at all the events out there. And I'm going to be honest, like we said, what sucks and what can we do different that would really resonate with people? We mail people's badges if they register early, so they don't have to wait in line. I hate waiting in line. Jimmy hates waiting in line. Josh, you hate waiting in line. Our sales team doesn't ever say, "Hey, do you want to buy a booth?" They say, "What are your goals? What's your objectives?" Like, I need to understand that, because I don't want to sell you a booth and then not be able to sell you another booth. It takes a long time to build a relationship in any industry, and certainly in cannabis. So we want to be able to maintain those relationships, that we have delivered them value. And my wife and I that founded the company, I mean, we've, built other trade shows before. It's always got to be customer value first. Like, if you create that value, you're going to create a very successful business, and it can never be the other way around. If you go in it saying, how can I just, get them to pay money? I mean, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody specifically in the cannabis industry, but, I've seen all the tricks. I've been in the trade show industry for 30 years. People will go out and, give free booths and speaking spots to these companies to make it seem like they have all the star players at their event, but none of them actually buy in because they're not paying for it. And sometimes they don't even show up. It was years ago that there was an event out in California that had promoted Whoopi Goldberg was going to be speaking when she had her Whoopi and Maya line, and they actually never had her under contract. I know, because Whoopi was $150,000. That included buying out a full airplane for her to fly on, because she doesn't like traveling with other people. So, it's important to understand what are the needs of the market at the moment. And we approach, creating a trade event as a hospitality event and as a community event. And so, we want this to live beyond that. And we're in the connection business. We're not in the real estate business. Like, you guys connecting at our show, makes me exceptionally happy, because, like, look at this. You guys are collabing. You guys got this going on. It's amazing to see how it's kind of like the butterfly flapping its wings, creates a tornado down the road. You never know how those connections are going to flourish. And when we design the event too, it's like, you're not going to build a relationship walking down an aisle, but if we have a lot of soft seating and you feel like you can sit down and have a conversation with somebody and get to know them, build trust, you build a relationship, then you do business together. And you can't do it if you online and virtual events, or walking down an aisle and grabbing a squishy ball on a business card.
Yeah. Hey, I do want to mention another trade show that is near and dear to my heart, because it's in my region of New England, and it's NECANN. Mark Shepard's done an amazing job over the years.
Mark is a great organizer. I have a lot of respect for Mark. He and I are good friends. We talk often, and chat shop, and he's really built a big event. I mean, he's like ourselves. We've gone out and done events that maybe haven't been as great as we want. Mark has that new NECANN in New England. It is the event for the New England market, period, hands down. Nobody can touch him. He's gone out to like Reno years ago and tried to do stuff in these other markets to kind of expand his business, and I know that's tough, because you got to start. You're really building another show, kind of like if you have a brand in Washington and you want to go open one up in Oregon, you got to start from the bottom and build that tower up.
Right. Absolutely. Go ahead, Josh. I know you get something. I gave him something else.
I was going to just rip on the whole business and networking everything, because I think that's also kind of what separates some people. MJ BizCon, they have the High Times party, and there's a lot of people, especially just after the last MJ BizCon, where a lot of people were putting out surveys asking, why do you go? And the majority of people are like, I go for the parties. Mm-hmm. So you're getting a totally different crowd than you would see at MJ Unpacked, who.
But that goes back to the value comment you brought up before, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you got to understand, like, the economics too of the industry and the psychology of the industry. So all of the supply chain purchasing decisions start at the apex of the ladder, which is the cultivators, the brands, and the retailers. Any of those companies that are exhibiting at the supply side shows like MJ BizCon need to have those people who are going to control the money being spent down into the ecosystem to create returns on investment. They lost control of their event in 2018. The parties, the suites, the private dinners became way more important. So the key decision makers go out to Vegas for MJ Biz, but they don't really go to the show anymore. And that's creating a decreasing return on investment for a lot of the companies that spend money with them, and they keep raising their prices.
Yeah, well, they're in a business. And speaking of business, when I get out and I actually talk to people, interview people on this show, other shows, I always hear the same thing. People who know, there are people in the cannabis industry who know cannabis, and there are people in the cannabis industry that know business, but that cannabis business person is evolving. Now, George,
Yes.
You are one. I can tell you that. You're definitely one. How do you see the actual business? Because there's a lot of doom and gloom out there right now in the industry.
Yeah. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, I've had experience going through this before. I mean, as far as me having that, cannabis business experience, I mean, that was when, pretty much from when I was like 15 to like 21, where I had my herbal distribution business. Right. I mean, it is important. I do see that kind of meritage where you need to bring together some people that understand it's not just the plant. You need to understand the science of the plant, but the culture of the community, right? And who are the customers, and why are people choosing this as a lifestyle choice or as a medical choice? And you do need somebody that knows how to run the business too, and keep the lights on. So it is important. I mean, it can be two different people that come together. I run a business with my wife. There's a great book called actually I just finished. It's called Rocket Fuel, and it talks about how you need to have. You don't want to marry somebody like yourself, and you don't want to go into business like somebody yourself. You're gonna be looking in the mirror, and you're gonna be in an echo chamber every day, right? So you need to have kind of multiple mindsets and perspectives to create successful enterprise. Absolutely, and hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it answers it because we're in the middle of it. There's not going to be a day that we all wake up and the cannabis industry is going to be accepted. I don't care if it's legalization involves lawyers and politicians. That's just not going to happen for a long time because, well, we know why. Let's not get into that. But it's normalization. It's like, hey, this industry is here now. They're making billions of dollars. People are in it, even though it's all cash. And even though every single thing.
Double-digit CAGR every year. It's double-digit growth for our industry. And part of it is new markets coming online. I mean, think of the growth that New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Maryland, and all these states that are moving to adult use are what impacts that can have. It is a fast growth industry, but I just had this conversation with an old friend. Actually, I'm just going to share a little story here real quick because it's important, personal to me. There's a guy in the trade show industry named Peter Nathan, and he was like the godfather of the trade show industry. He's been doing it for like 50 years. He did the first ever trade show in Libya, in Cuba. He's a legend, and he just passed away about a month ago. And he was always just, kind of like a very much of a business father figure to me. I just talked to his daughter last night, and she's thinking about getting back into the event space, maybe even the cannabis event space. And I explained to her, like, there's such a lack of access to capital in the industry. And she goes, I'm so surprised. I'm so surprised. Like, everybody's so excited about cannabis. It's growing all the time. Like, why is there this lack of access to capital? Right. And it really is a complete and abject failure of government, that they have, that we don't have access to safe banking, which creates a bullshit, perceived risk on these businesses. It's actually a public safety issue. People get shot here in Washington, Josh, as working a $15 an hour retail job. I mean, get the fuck out of our way. Pardon my French, but hopefully this is a R-rated show. But get the fuck out of our way and just get safe banking across the transom. Don't attach it to 20 other, social equity, provisions, expungement. Let's just get to safe banking because it is a critical, it's going to save lives, period. Right. Create some efficiency in the ecosystem, but it's going to also, increase the opportunity for investor confidence. And you'll see, major U.S. exchanges moving to start, listing. Maybe it's the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ, but they're never going to do it if there's no safe banking. And we need institutional capital. We need private equity. We need the angel investors to see that we're just about to get there, so they start opening up their wallets and purse strings. And the venture funds, I don't know, they might have run their course in this industry because they made a lot of place bets early on. Very few of them have had round trips, for their investors. So they're very, strained to be able to raise more money. If they have any money, they're saving it to, support companies they've already invested in so that they don't go to zero. We're seeing it all over the place. And it's just, listen, we might see a couple MSOs, fail on their debt, default on their debt, and they're going to go down. Now, that doesn't mean that the industry is not healthy. It doesn't mean the industry is not growing. It might mean that something was mismanaged or over leveraged. And when something's over leveraged and the interest rates go up and capital dries up, you get yourself in a little bit of trouble. So anyway, sorry for the rant. I'm beside myself that we don't have, the industry leadership or, the government leadership to solve a very, very, very simple problem.
Yeah. But doesn't that also provide some opportunities? Because there's a report out from Viridian Capital, right? So they came out and said that the capital raises dropped from 12 billion in 2021 to 4 billion in 2022. And so I'm thinking that with the lack of capital, that actually might create more opportunities for, just M&As, mergers, so that you might have two zombies like Hexo and Tilray holding each other up, and it's just a matter of time before they finally fall into their grave. But at least it does provide an opportunity to maybe breathe and live another day.
Yeah, and I think this type of economic contraction. I mean, this is just how capital markets work and marketplaces work. There's going to be expansion and contraction. Agriculture is going to have droughts, and the price of bananas are going to go up. From time to time. This is, a lot of people have been saying this is like the .com bubble bursting in the late 90s. And it will eliminate, poorly managed, poorly capitalized companies. Companies that don't deliver value are going to probably really struggle. And I think that it also does create, kind of a pathway and a demand for collaborative work like you guys are doing, right? Media is tough. Events, publishing, podcasting, there's a lot of media content out there, and there's not a lot of advertisers. So, you need to be, best of class, and you'll survive and probably thrive. But if you're, just kind of doing the same old and not innovating or collaborating or partnering or finding a way that 1 + 1 can equal 11, I think it's going to be a tough road, and we're probably 6 to 12 months before things start really turning.
Man, that's actually great advice. Believe me, great insight on that. Now, I got a question for you, and actually, Josh and I worked on this one together. Okay, and if you had to pick one of the big three conglomerate industries that are out there, you've got your alcohol, your pharma, and your big tobacco. Which one do you think will end up either operating in the cannabis space, or will it be a combination of all three? What's your feeling about that?
Well, I listen, I'm not on the front lines of a lot of, what's happening on what is it, D Street or J Street with all the lobbyists in Washington. But, you have to believe that, it's in their advantage to have the industry strained and desperate, so that when they can move into the space on a federal legalization, it's, instead of paying $10 for something, they're paying $5. I think that Pharma's got a pathway. I mean, in this space, my mother-in-law worked for Johnson & Johnson for decades, and so she lives out in Jersey and kind of that pharma kind of corridor out there. Pharmaceuticals tend to want to extract the intelligence and leave the wisdom. And so we find something that might be of medical benefit or value, and we want to isolate it, and we want to get it into a pill form, and then we want to make it so that it's not, somebody else can copy it. I mean, this is medicine that is available that we can grow in our backyard. I'm not pointing to my backyard. There are no marijuana plants in my backyard, officer. All right. So, and tobacco, I mean, listen, they've got the technology stacks, they've got the plans. And I think tobacco is probably going to be a stronger force coming in this industry for the sake that I think they're the weakest. They're most susceptible to, continuing having challenges of finding and addicting new customers. And the alcohol industry, I've good friends back in my home state of Wisconsin. Yeah, you betcha that, they're selling Delta 8 beverages all day long at their bar. And they're like, we're never going to get legal weed here because the tavern league is so strong. And we know that alcohol sales go down, as soon as the legalization happens. So, it's just, again, it's opposing forces. It's kind of like, the privatizing prisons, again, one of the probably the worst ideas ever, but there's a lot of lobbyists that, corporate lobbyists that can influence that to privatize prisons. And, I think history will look back as that being one of the stupidest things that we've ever done, not to mention how over incarcerated our country is. But without going off on too much of a rabbit hole, I think that alcohol is probably best positioned. I think that tobacco is probably most motivated, and I think pharma is going to kind of take a little bit of a different path and probably try to fuck up something that nature made perfect to begin with.
That's a great quote, by the way, George. That's a great quote. All right.
You caught me on a Friday. It's been a long week. I'm just going to let it hang out today, Jimmy.
No, I love that. And I appreciate you. I know you moved some things around so we could hang out and talk for a little bit, because I've always enjoyed our chats over the last few years. You used the word collaboration, and it is a word that this industry still struggles with. There is a lot of backstabbing. There's a lot of bullying going on in this industry. I'm talking basically in the Massachusetts area, just because these are the stories that I hear a lot of. Yes, there's some MSOs involved with that, but my point is, how is the industry going to survive if we get childish with our philosophies and we start to backbite and bully others that are in it for the reason that you just said? This is a medicine. You want to help people. There are a lot of people out there in this industry who just want to help people feel better.
Yeah. Listen, and Josh, you've been around a long time. I mean, there's a lot of backstabbing and ankle biting that goes on in the industry. Some people like MSOs are the devil. They're not. And I saw a really interesting post. It's like, like they're complaining about the MSOs having too much power or money. And like somebody quoted said, like, what are you going to do when InBev comes in? Right. They're going to be, 20, 30x, more powerful than any MSO that exists today. Listen, maybe we all just need to have a group therapy session and smoke some weed and talk about how we're going to get along better.
Exactly.
It kind of has that effect on people, right? Like you go out and get drunk, you want to fight, and when you smoke a joint, you want to love.
Right.
So this is why it can be so transformational for society, right? Like, we're going to reduce some of the physiological harm that alcohol causes on the body. We can reduce some of the societal harm that violence that stems from overuse or overconsumption of alcohol causes. Deaths. I'm not encouraging anybody to drive stoned, but drunk drivers are probably more impaired than a cannabis driver who might be driving a little too slow, where the alcohol is going to make one drive too fast. Still a bad idea to drink and under or drive under the influence of anything. I just want to make that clear. But hopefully we can see some reduction in damage. And Jimmy and Josh, we're focused on the cannabis industry. When you look at the restorative power of hemp and the way that it could absolutely radically transform so many major industries that are the primary contributors to our, global extinction threat called climate change. We can use hemp to restore soil that's been, toxified. We can use it to, it's a natural, easy growing plant that can be used for fuel. It can be used for textiles. It can be used to create bioplastics that truly biodegrade. I wish we could get the capital behind that, and people would see, maybe like an ExxonMobil, after they made, $62 billion in profit last quarter, could invest into something around the hemp space.
Yeah. Hemp needs a better marketing agent like ChatGPT or AI is getting right now, and it would do a lot better.
Yeah.
Hey, George, I just so appreciate, I know that Josh and I and you, we could talk for at least an hour, but I really, as much as I'd love to do that, I'm not sure I'm going to make it much past the next few minutes. So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to tease what's happening over the next hour and a half on the show. Brandon Jones, our correspondent from Missouri, has a bunch of interviews that he's done this week. Missouri's market is just exploding, and he's going to take over the rest of the show. And of course, following this show is our weekly Weed Talk News show. So, George, best of luck at MJ Unpacked. Josh, thanks for being there and being my crutch today. I really appreciate it. I know people are saying, he doesn't look sick. I'm pretty nauseous right now. That being said, everybody have a great weekend, everybody. And we definitely will have a very special 421 show next week. And we'll get into that if you tune in. So again, thanks for watching the really live part of the Green Rush Live. And from here on in, we're live streaming, but it is recorded content. We'll see you next time.
Jimmy, Josh, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, this is a tune that I wrote back in 19... I've forgotten. We had a saying in our old band, one of my first bands in 1966 or so. What are you going to do tonight? Oh, just, like every other night, just going to lay around the shanty and put a good buzz on. Gonna sit down in the kitchen, fix me something good to eat. Make my head a little high, make the whole day complete. Gonna lay around the shanty, oh mama, and put a good buzz on. Pass it to me, baby, pass it to me slow. We'll take time out to smile a little before you let her go. We're gonna lay around the shanty, oh mama, and put a good buzz on. You're on something. Go ahead. Rick Brodsky, everybody. Nothing to do and there's always room for more. Fill it, light it, shut up and close that door, baby. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on. Take it, okay. Prohibition never works, it's time to realize it. It grows in my backyard, it's time to legalize it. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on. I'm gonna sit down in my rented car. I'm gonna jam it into drive. Gonna head on out and play at WSCA with Sean. I'm glad I'm alive. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on every night and day. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on.
Nice. It's Friday. Thank God. Thank God Jonathan Edwards is joining us live in the WSCA studios.
We are a cultivation through to consumption lifestyle brand for the cannabis industry. Of course, the crown jewel in our product line is the Armoire home grow system. So now with Green Goddess Supply, we can take you everywhere from growing it in the Armoire right through to storing it, consuming it, rolling it, storing it, you name it, A to Z. Our goal is to enable everybody and anybody anywhere to be able to produce their own organic flower quickly, easily, discreetly, and inexpensively.
Safetiva Labs in Westfield is fast becoming the #1 testing lab for cannabis in Western Massachusetts. Safetiva understands the importance for accurate on-time test results for your product. That's why their current compliance panel turnaround time is less than 2 days. That's Safetiva Labs in Westfield. For more information, go to safetiva.com. Berkshire Roots is a destination dispensary with 2 locations in Massachusetts, one in Pittsfield in the middle of the Berkshires and one in East Boston, just 5 minutes from Logan Airport. Both locations have tremendous selections showcasing exclusive brands. Berkshire Roots is always on the lookout to discover and create new products. Check them out or order ahead at berkshireRoots.com.
You would think that it is. However, there's quite a bit of debate right now in the accounting industry when it relates to cannabis with this exact question. I'm part of a few different networking groups that are solely accountants for cannabis companies. And there's been quite a bit of back and forth in those communities and discussion regarding whether 280E, if it went away, if the administration legalized cannabis or took it off of Schedule 1, what would happen? And it could go either way right now. The debate is it could make the accountant's life much easier. That's what a lot of the inexperienced accountants are saying right now, it seems, whereas the accountants that have been in this industry for a while and have gone through the same thing that happened with hemp a few years ago are saying that it actually will make lives more difficult, because when hemp became declassified a while back, the accounting became more complicated.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with Be Green Distribution with another episode of Green Rush Live. Very happy to be joined this week by Joey Pantozzi, the man in Kansas City Cannabis, here associated with Smoky River Entertainment District and quite a few other things with the Besa Hospitality Group. Joey, just want to say thanks again for joining me today. And how's it going, man?
Of course, man. Thanks for having me. Things are great. We're just gearing up for the show right around the corner next week.
Yeah, I can't believe it's already getting here that fast, man. It seems like this has been a pie in the sky that's going to happen soon. And holy cow, it's almost here now, man.
Yeah, we're finishing up the land, getting everything nice and level and graded. We'll put in all the fencing this week. Wednesday or Thursday, I believe it all goes in, and then we start production on Monday. So we're ready to go on Thursday.
And so for all of those that don't know, 420 Fest is going to be held at Smoky River Entertainment District this year on 420 with Wiz, Burner, Joey Badass, Chevy Woods. God, who's the other one, Joey? I forgot. There's one more artist performing.
Smoke Dizza.
There we go. all of this year, and it's going to allow for consumption in designated areas. And it's just, I can't believe this is happening in Kansas City. Like I said, this is going to be the biggest concert on 420 in the country, and very happy to have you here. Just a little bit of background. We're both Kansas guys. You grew up here and went to Topeka. Is that right, John?
Yeah, so I went to Topeka High School over there in Topeka, Kansas, Washburn University. And then I took off for a while out to Las Vegas, worked in hospitality, South Florida, before I made my way back here in 2020.
So when you came back here, did you ever think that the Missouri market was going to turn into what it's been this last couple months?
You know, we had great expectations for it, but we have overachieved for sure. It's an amazing market, amazing industry. You know, we have some unique advantages here in Missouri. One of them being that, you know, we're the only state in America bordered by 8 other states, a lot of which don't have cannabis, and honestly don't know if they will ever have cannabis. But yeah, great market. We're from a retail perspective, our store is Basin May Wellness. You know, we love the love that everybody has given us, all the Missouri business, Kansas business. It's been awesome.
Yeah, you have 5 locations through the Basin May lineup. Is that correct?
Correct. We've got our North Kansas City location, our Kansas City location, which is on Berry Road, Smithville, Liberty, and we have one in Warrensburg.
Yeah, and they are all a little bit different and unique in kind of their style and kind of fit the community that they're in. That's why I really like that, you know, you kind of not tried to be a box and just go around and put the exact same place in every location. You kind of try to fit the community, and I think that's why they really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it right. We put them up, we got the branding right, and then we kind of retrofit each store to the community that it's in. And I know the patients and the customers really enjoy that. We have a pretty robust delivery service, so we're able to deliver all over the KC metro area as long as it's on the Missouri side. And that's grown significantly. We just added some really amazing features with curbside pickup and the Basin May Wellness app. You get all kinds of cool rewards. You're able to use express pickup just from getting that app set up.
That's amazing. And then let's talk a little bit about Smoky, the district itself, the entertainment district. So you actually have the entire township of Riverbend. Is that correct?
So what we did is we approached the village of Riverbend a while back, which is its own municipality, and we pitched them the idea of this entertainment district, which eventually will take up the village of Riverbend itself is 2,000 acres, but the entertainment district will take up 46 acres in time. So we plan to have the first part of the entertainment district open late 2024, early 2025. And what that will consist of is a 8,000 to 14,000 capacity scalable outdoor amphitheater, 2 indoor venues, one of being 800 capacity, the other being scalable 1,300 to 3,000 in capacity, all having a music element. There'll be all kinds of really cool event space. And then later on in 2025, we will open the Riverwalk concept, which goes right down there along that beautiful Missouri River. It will be, 15 to 25 food and beverage concepts. We have some amazing brands that have approached us so far about getting involved. Some iconic local brands, some national brands. And we hope to have, we will have that open late 2025.
And then you can actually going to be able to walk across from Cherry Creek as well. They're going to add a pedestrian walkway to that bridge. And it's kind of going to be hopefully like the Nashville of cannabis type, where, like you said, you're going to have, music be a concept part of the rent. You're going to have live music Thursday through Saturday or something associated with it.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do is we wanted to create first an amazing entertainment district that really focused on what Kansas City is. And Kansas City has amazing arts, from music to food, painters, So we wanted to really, really embrace that entire community. So what we've done is, we wanted to bring in entertainment, have kind of think Nashville meets New Orleans with a sprinkle of Amsterdam throughout. So what we wanted to do is create this entire district where we're going to sprinkle consumption lounges throughout it. So the great thing about this is we're going to let people be free, right? Cannabis is legal. We ended prohibition. If you want to consume, you'll be able to consume just like anybody else. If you don't want to be around it, you don't have to. But a big thing for us is normalizing cannabis through hospitality. And it's, there's a lot of people who like to get off work and go catch a game and grab a beer with their friend. Well, why not go grab a bowl? Why not go grab a joint? You should be able to do the same things. So that's something we're really focused on. But yeah, Thursday, we're hoping to get everybody that gets involved, say Thursday through Saturday, we'll have a music element. Rather it's a guy playing an acoustic guitar, a piano, a DJ. We just want it to be vibrant, full of life, and really kind of embrace the arts community that Kansas City has.
Yeah, we have a huge, like you said, history in jazz, barbecue, and just arts in general. So yeah, it's great to be able to embrace it and not have to worry about having to find a place to hide away to go onto the street to enjoy your cannabis that's legal. So
it's legal, man.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So we talk about, a lot about the business. I'm obviously a father. I got my little 3-year-old. I love taking him around the events. And like you said, stigma, getting rid of the stigma is a big thing. And I think it starts with a, young age. And I know you're a great kind of father and family man as well. I saw an awesome thing about your daughter just being in Tarzan. Is there any way you could talk a little bit about, the family in front of the camera where you're kind of the guy behind everything else? Your wife obviously was a great model back in her day, and your daughter is now.
Yeah. I got blessed with a really incredible family, and it's my support system, and it's my everything. I have a wife of going on 11 years, an amazing 6-year-old daughter, and I also have a 15-year-old son over in Topeka, Kansas, who's just a brilliant young man. My daughter, she's kind of the light of the world right now. She's a little actress or getting into acting. That's her heart and soul, man. The energy she has at 6 years old is mind blowing. She's able to go do these dress rehearsals all week and then bang out, doubles when it comes to plays 3 nights in a row. But yeah, she just finished up Tarzan. It was great. She was a little ape in there, and now she's gearing up for 2 more plays. So yeah, that's my buddy. I got an awesome family. That's what it's all about for me, and everything
100%.
Every day that I do, I wake up and just figure out how to better their position and reward them in this life.
Well, I mean, it shows, man. It's not just a one-time thing, and you're always there supporting, and I see them all the time. And like you said, they're big supporters of you, and you're obviously a huge supporter of them. And it shows, man. And I'm great to see, that we can embrace our family, and they know what you do and how you do it, and you can see that work already there. And your 6-year-old spending, 2 weeks of dress rehearsals just to get ready to go into a show that she knows is only going to be, back to back. But I mean, that work ethic, that desire, and that's just awesome to see, man.
That's it. I hope, we just were talking about this the other day, and if there's one thing I hope that kids and take away from me, it's the work ethic, right? It's the commitment and just the will, the grit to get things done. It's what we've been going through with this whole project, really kind of pushing ourselves in the cannabis industry outside traditional ways, right? Not just retail, not just manufacturing or cultivation. We're going into the entertainment side, and it's had its challenges. In 2023, we wanted to get people familiar with that area first of all, so we turned it all into festival grounds even before construction. So, you'll come into the amphitheater in 2024, but hell, this year we're going to treat you to some great music festivals, having a consumption aspect. We'll have the consumption village that runs right alongside the cannabis, right alongside the festival grounds. So those have been challenges in itself, which require a lot of grit. But hey, we're here. We got it done. And I like to see the family see that side of me, right? The grit.
100%. And like we talk about support, you got it from family, but let's talk about the support for the event. I mean, you don't just have a local Missouri team helping you put this event on. Obviously, your background with being in Vegas and with Hard Rock and all that has got you some connections before. I mean, who else is helping you put on this event? We talked about who's helped you with, like, people that helped throw the event for the Super Bowl are helping on this event,
Well,
right?
we've got a really, really good team. Probably the best build team. Won't go into a lot of names, but this is probably the best build team that I've ever been a part of, from production to site management, to even marketing. And on top of that, what we've done here at Basin May with developing the BHG, which is Basic Hospitality Group, the minds that I get to work around every day make my job really, really easy, right? The creativeness, the forward thinking, the grit. You think I'm gritty, you should see these guys got to put up with me. So they're a lot more gritty than I. And yeah, man, it's been a forward thinking project. It's been a rocket ship that we're putting together as we fly this thing. It's been a lot of fun, but I'm really, really excited with what we get to show everybody for these festivals upcoming in 2023 this year. Speaking of that build team, speaking of that production team, you're going to walk into first of class everything when it comes to festivals, right? Field festivals, think Rockfest, think Coachella, where we just transform this big empty site into a festival 3 to 5 times this year. So I'm stoked about that, and really, really, really lucky and honored to be around the people I get to work with every day.
Yeah, man, I'm very lucky just to sometimes through osmosis be in the room with those people too, man. I appreciate
Awesome, man.
the opportunity. But yeah, man, so that's kind of leads into my next question. What is next? Obviously 420 is huge. Is there anything you want to let out the bag about what the next event might be?
Well, so bro, I'll give you a little peek under the hood. Right now, we're working on, possibly 2 July events, one being around the 4th of July, one being at the end of July. We are also speaking of an end of the summer event, probably September, and then one in October. What they are yet, we haven't dialed them in. We're the great thing about what 420 has brought us and this whole project is the people that have approached us in the cannabis world, the entertainment world, all of the above. It's a blank canvas, and we're trying to invite as many artists as we can to come in and paint this thing with us. So we've got kind of the timeline, the dates set up, not locked in, but we're still evaluating talent, tour packages that are coming through, themes of festivals, all kinds of things. We should have that locked in. Our mind has been so focused on this 420 and getting it done. So free up some headspace after that and really dial in the other dates.
Gotcha. So just to dial back in on 420, is there anything that the people that are coming need to make sure that they do bring or don't bring?
For sure. I think the biggest thing is understanding that you can bring cannabis to this event. It's legal. It's allowed. You can bring and possess 3 ounces or the equivalent of. So we are going to allow that. Once you get into the festival grounds, cannabis can only be consumed in the designated area, which is the cannabis village. There will be no cannabis allowed outside that. The cannabis village, there'll be no alcohol allowed inside the cannabis village. We have the cannabis village running alongside the festival grounds. Have to be 21 years of age to enter the cannabis village, and you can be 18 to enter the concert, the festival grounds. So that's the big thing. And I think the messaging for a lot of people is help us do this, man. We're celebrating the end of prohibition. We're doing something significant in this state. We're coming off a bunch of national media where they're shocked that, hey man, you guys are doing this in Missouri, and yeah, we are. So the big thing for us is just having people support what we're doing, getting familiar with what we're doing with the festival grounds opposed to the actual amphitheater. And also when you get there, being a big part of the day, help us out with, smoke in the Cannabis Village. Keep the beer out of the Cannabis Village. Let's do this more, and let's do it safe and responsible, so we can show the state and the rest of the world we know what we're doing, and we're going to do something great here.
Do we have any recycling elements that are going on as far as the thing is there? We focused on that as well too. Obviously, you want to keep the green industry.
Yeah, we'll have some recycling options there.
That's amazing.
Sure.
Yeah. So
we built it all out, recycling. We got ADA. Everything is ADA accessible throughout there. Food trucks, artists. We got some Canna games that are going to take place. The Cannabis. One important thing to know too is that the Cannabis Village itself opens at 3 p.m. So you can come in early. A concert's not starting until 6:30. Festival grounds will open, but the Cannabis Village itself is open at 3 p.m. And that party in there is going to be amazing. You know, right now we're staring at about 80 of Missouri's top brands and cannabis vendors. We got artists in there. We got food in there. We got music going on. That's where the party's going to be at. So come out early.
Yeah, a whole other separate stage inside that Cannabis Village with entertainment and the vendors. And that the cool thing is those vendors, you can actually order right from the Besame location, and you're going to have that delivered to the actual venue. So you make your order, you wait in the lift line, and the delivery truck's going to come up. You show your ID and validate that that's your order. And is that correct?
Yeah, so how it's going to work is concert goers, festival goers will need to download the Besame Wellness app. From there, they'll have a delivery option. And inside the Canna Village, there'll be a designated pickup spot. Obviously, no cannabis, no marijuana is sold in the Cannabis Village. However, you can legally order delivery to a designated pickup order. So you'll want to go in and do two things. You'll want to download the Besame Wellness app, and you'll want to get set up on Hyper, which is a cashless payment. Very, very convenient. We use it all of our stores now for curbside pickup, express pickup. It's seamless, man. A few clicks of the button, get your bank account in there, set it and forget it. And then, hey, legal weed is going to show up.
So yeah, you forget something, you see something that somebody's trying, you're like, oh man, I want to hit that live rosin, or I want to try that pre-roll. What do you know? You push the Besame app and it's going to be delivered to you at the venue. You don't have to leave. You don't have to come back. It's all going to be part of the actual event. It's just mind-blowing, to be honest, Joey.
That's it, man. That's it.
Well, I know you're extremely busy, man. I really appreciate the time. I'm so grateful that you're doing this. And like I said, changing the stigma, not only, through just events, but everything that you guys are doing through all of the work you do, Besame Hospitality Group, all the way down to the, the dispensaries themselves. So just want to say thanks, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you. And you and your team have been a big part of supporting us, and thank you for everything you do. And man, really thank the cannabis community, because it's been awesome. This 3 years and coming back here has just been a blessing and awesome. I can't say anything else about it.
All right, Joey. Well, I'll let you get back at it, man. I'm so excited. I'll see you on 420 again. Brandon Jones with Big Green.
It's a whole new world of weed out there, isn't it? Everyone is learning new ways to titrate, ingest, consume, imbibe, and engage with this plant medicine we call cannabis. Hi, I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and the host of In the Weeds, and once in a while, the really live business cannabis talk show we call Green Rush on Friday afternoons from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. Now let me tell you my cannabis story. I've had 4 major surgeries in the past 23 years and suffer from osteoarthritis with a variety of metal parts in my body and one on deck. Now, thanks to those chronic pain issues, I've been a medical patient in Massachusetts for almost 10 years now. I remember my first trip to a dispensary just outside of Boston, and I told the bud tender I didn't want to smoke it anymore, so I tried edibles, then tinctures, then vaping, and now, if I'm going to smoke, I only use the Weegets filtration system. What? The Weegets.com, Weegets, that's weed, W-E-E-D, G-E-T-S.com, is where you'll find the planet's coolest product that cools the smoke from everyone's favorite flower. Now, the guy that started this was a pretty good medical device manufacturer, and he created this maze pipe that cools the smoking process from 1300 degrees Fahrenheit upon inflammation down to just 90 degrees when it reaches your mouth. That's right, 1300 down to 90. That's why this maze pipe is amazing. So here's how it works. You start with that glass bowl, you flame on, and then you inhale nice and smooth so the smoke goes through 3 different filtration and cooling systems. Now, if pre-rolls is your thing, you can use the Weegit's filter that a pre-roll fits into perfectly. That's right, or even a chillum. The more filters, the smoother the draw. Best of all is the price. You can get all this, or one or the other, for just a few bucks. It'll cool your smoke and you'll give your lungs a break. Now, add in the code of PCMTV and you get 15% off. So just go to Weegits.com and check out the best way to enjoy a cooler smoke with less coughing and hacking and more peace of mind. All that resin and tar is collected in the polyurethane filters that are easy to clean with soap, water, and a few Q-tips. Your lungs will thank you, and so will I.
We are a cultivation through to consumption lifestyle brand for the cannabis industry. Of course, the crown jewel in our product line is the Armoire home grow system. So now with Green Goddess Supply, we can take you everywhere from growing it in the Armoire right through to storing it, consuming it, rolling it, storing it, you name it, A to Z. Our goal is to enable everybody and anybody anywhere to be able to produce their own organic flower quickly, easily, discreetly, and inexpensively.
Safetiva Labs in Westfield is fast becoming the #1 testing lab for cannabis in Western Massachusetts. Safetiva understands the importance for accurate on-time test results for your product. That's why their current compliance panel turnaround time is less than 2 days. That's Safetiva Labs in Westfield. For more information, go to safetiva.com. Berkshire Roots is a destination dispensary with 2 locations in Massachusetts, one in Pittsfield in the middle of the Berkshires and one in East Boston, just 5 minutes from Logan Airport. Both locations have tremendous selections showcasing exclusive brands. Berkshire Roots is always on the lookout to discover and create new products. Check them out or order ahead at berkshireRoots.com.
You would think that it is. However, there's quite a bit of debate right now in the accounting industry when it relates to cannabis with this exact question. I'm part of a few different networking groups that are solely accountants for cannabis companies. And there's been quite a bit of back and forth in those communities and discussion regarding whether 280E, if it went away, if the administration legalized cannabis or took it off of Schedule 1, what would happen? And it could go either way right now. The debate is it can make the accountant's life much easier. That's what a lot of the inexperienced accountants are saying right now, it seems. Whereas the accountants that have been in this industry for a while and have gone through the same thing that happened with hemp a few years ago are saying that it actually will make lives more difficult, because when hemp became declassified a while back, the accounting became more complicated.
What's up, everybody? It's Brandon Jones again with Pro Cannabis Media doing a special episode of Green Rush Live. We're here at Burn Brands in Oklahoma City, checking out the facility. I'm here with my man Hunter. He's going to show us through, walk us through the place, and give us a little tour. All right, boss.
What's up, guys? Hunter with Burn Brands. So walking into the building, this is really our lab entrance. We have our shipping and receiving dock right here, where we can actually bring a car up into the facility, load it up for transports. This is my old extraction unit. It's the Precision XMU. It was a little over-engineered. I'll let Precision explain that to y'all if you're really interested in it. But we hooked it up with the Precision PX10. We're fully integrated with a packaging and supply company, so we've got 100,000 carts right here, and we have companies that come pick up carts from us all the time. So walking through,
And this is the mascot, my homie. What's his name? I forget. Badass.
Yeah.
That's what we call him. Troublemaker at CannaCon. Some bullshit. Check out the Instagram from Burn so you can see where it's at.
All right. So coming into here, this is our lab. It is a fully refrigerated unit. So this whole building is a building built inside a building. We're running a Huber 905 Unistat as our supplementary, as our chiller. And we're rocking this bad boy. Actually, don't even know the brand on it. Precision white labeled it for our supplemental chiller. We do pre-roll stuff out of our burner room in here, kind of doing a little bit of storage. That's one of our rolling machines. We got the Roll Pro.
Hell yeah. Nice and separated. Each room can be shut off.
This right here is where the max happens. We got a C1D1 booth. Here's my Precision PX10. We got material columns over here where you can load 5-pound socks. Really depends on the material. And then I'm able to go through the 5-pound run in about 30-ish minutes, give or take, depending on how many runs I've done that day. Spits it out at the end right here, recovers all my butane, stores it back down in the tanks down there that we keep at negative 80 degrees. And since we just partnered with Illuminated, we're actually going to be hooking the lab up with Illuminated equipment as well. So follow back for more on that. All right, my hash boys are going to love this one. This is our cold room. We keep this room at 34 degrees. It's actually at 37 right now, turned it up a little bit. We don't even have to use water or ice in here when we're making our hash. This is where I pack my socks. I built a little contraption. With PVC, where you can load the socks up into it. We can pack everything in here so all the keef doesn't fly everywhere, get everything all dirty. So this is where we do all of our post-processing. It's going to be VHO over here, where we have our vacuum ovens. I got my harvest rights over here that we do our rosin out of. And then we sometimes set a press up over there. Dakota kind of moves his press around. And then that's really it for the lab. Massive facility.
Hell yeah, let's go. Let's start it up, man. Fucking stop number 1. We'll see you at location number 2.
All of the walls have ventilation through it, so there's complete airflow for all of the plants.
Yeah. Yeah, so these holes throughout the pipe the entire way will release air. And yeah, you can feel it pressing, so no matter where you're at, you're getting fresh air.
Sure, and it's actually air that's recirculated through the filter up there. So that way we can control humidity in here a little bit better. Because if we were always throwing fresh air in here, we'd be beating the shit out of our ACs.
Everybody knows humidity fucking counts.
I've got my walk-in freezer right here. It's kept at negative 10 degrees. This is where we store all of your products, keep it really fresh, give you your terps back. As you can see, we're pretty stocked up. This is one of my most recent harvests. I didn't like the way the flower looked, so I was going to turn it into some live resin for y'all. You go into storage.
Safety.
And then this is my storage room. These are all filled up with pre-rolls. These are some smalls from my most recent harvest, and then some that we picked up from Nugget Hill Farms. Throw some fucking gas over there. 14 batches of pre-rolls. We got our continuous sealer over here. Here's all of our rosins packaged up, ready to go. And then we got some little sample bags out that we're dropping off at dispos.
Oh yeah. And then here we go.
Raise the lights today.
We got 800 plants in here? 720 plants in here.
And then do you want to explain everybody why you have just every other?
The checkerboard just to control the temperature. Sometimes we run them all, but you know, in hotter days and stuff, just trying to, you know, maintain. And plus, for 6 hours a day, it'll be on that. And then sometimes, like in nature, cannabis, the sun doesn't just beat on a plant all day, every day.
Right.
So, you know, it's beneficial to
change it up and change the light source, and then you're in a ceramic metal halide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Fans oscillating all throughout the facility. And I'm gonna, oh yeah, we got some toppers and some jumpers in the back.
Yeah.
Woo-wee.
We're running a massive facility with short hands.
Yeah.
These are all of our babies.
All the new genetics, all, you know, our R41s, good OGs, runs, original runs, candy fumes.
This is our boy D over here.
What's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, finesse, baby, what's up? Ooh.
Yes, sir. Doing a little Green Rush live episode for Pro Cannabis Media, so appreciate you.
Yeah. This right here is going to be our mom room.
Well, it's a transition.
Transition room, yeah.
Yeah, mom's in the back, transition into our rooms, you know, till we outfit our other business. Once we get into phase 2. So, you know.
Keeping them nice and moist in the corner, having some extra.
Yeah, we like to run it like a jungle.
Hell yeah, man.
They got a little stressed with the change for BPD the last week or so, but
we're bouncing back.
We're getting back this time.
Drew, and the come over here.
No, you're good. We slayed today.
And what are you doing right there, boss?
We're dipping into like a IPM, so we can get rid of anything that may be on there.
Yeah, it's a root drench, preventative maintenance. Make sure nothing bad's gonna get down there. We don't want algae buildup, any of that bad
Make
stuff.
sure there's no aphids or anything. Just trying to keep it clean. They're more of a preventative to keep, you know, you got to stay on top of it. In our facility of this size, you know.
100%.
Something can go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, one plant can turn to 100 real fast.
Quick. So here's our fermentation, growing. Pretty much the industry standard here.
Holy.
Yeah, we kind of went a little bit extravagant with everything we do.
I need to give you a little bit more of a to scale. You know, can you all stand in front of that just so everybody can kind of understand the size of these things? Yeah, for real. Appreciate you.
Yep. So we have upgraded our water to 20,000 gallons a day. Yeah, we have a very, very high-end RO system. It gets all the impurities out of the water to the point where we can't even run this water in an ice machine because the machine can't register that it's water. It registers as nothing. So anything going into our water is what we put into it.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time? When you try to put this into an ice machine, it doesn't even register as water?
Yep, because there's no impurities in it. It's Yep. Yeah, so that's what it does is ice machines register impurities in the water to register that there's a fluid in there, but there's no impurities in the water when it comes out of this system. Can't even register, we attempted to get one for our hash room at first because we didn't think about doing it without the water, or without the ice, and yeah, couldn't do it because we have to get like a special RO system, or a special ice system to run the RO.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's how clean this water is, people.
And then this is our main entrance right here.
And yeah, we are confirming this is Oklahoma. I know you think maybe you're in California. No, this is happening right here in Oklahoma City. The Midwest is getting crazy.
In the middle.
Appreciate you, Hunter.
It's a whole new world of weed out there, isn't it? Everyone is learning new ways to titrate, ingest, consume, imbibe, and engage with this plant medicine we call cannabis. Hi, I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and the host of In the Weeds, and once in a while, the really live business cannabis talk show we call Green Rush on Friday afternoons from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. Now, let me tell you my cannabis story. You know, I've had 4 major surgeries in the past 23 years and suffer from osteoarthritis with a variety of metal parts in my body and one on deck. Now, thanks to those chronic pain issues, I've been a medical patient in Massachusetts for almost 10 years now. I remember my first trip to a dispensary just outside of Boston, and I told the bud tender I didn't want to smoke it anymore, so I tried edibles, then tinctures, then vaping, and now, if I'm going to smoke, I only use the Weejits filtration system. What? The Weejits.com, Weejits, that's weed, W-E-E-D, G-E-T-S.com, is where you'll find the planet's coolest product that cools the smoke from everyone's favorite flower. Now, the guy that started this was a pretty good medical device manufacturer, and he created this maze pipe that cools the smoking process from 1300 degrees Fahrenheit upon inflammation down to just 90 degrees when it reaches your mouth. That's right, 1300 down to 90. That's why this maze pipe is amazing. So here's how it works. You start with that glass bowl, you flame on, and then you inhale nice and smooth so the smoke goes through 3 different filtration and cooling systems. Now, if pre-rolls is your thing, you can use the Weejits filter that a pre-roll fits into perfectly. That's right, or even a chillum. The more filters, the smoother the draw. Best of all is the price. You can get all this, or one or the other, for just a few bucks. It'll cool your smoke and you'll give your lungs a break. Now, add in the code of PCMTV and you get 15% off. So just go to Weejits.com and check out the best way to enjoy a cooler smoke with less coughing and hacking and more peace of mind. All that resin and tar is collected in the polyurethane filters that are easy to clean with soap, water, and a few Q-tips. Your lungs will thank you, and so will I.
We are a cultivation through to consumption lifestyle brand for the cannabis industry. Of course, the crown jewel in our product line is the Armoire home grow system. So now with Green Goddess Supply, we can take you everywhere from growing it in the Armoire right through to storing it, consuming it, rolling it, storing it, you name it, A to Z. Our goal is to enable everybody and anybody anywhere to be able to produce their own organic flower quickly, easily, discreetly, and inexpensively.
Safetiva Labs in Westfield is fast becoming the #1 testing lab for cannabis in Western Massachusetts. Safetiva understands the importance for accurate on-time test results for your product. That's why their current compliance panel turnaround time is less than 2 days. That's Safetiva Labs in Westfield. For more information, go to safetiva.com. Berkshire Roots is a destination dispensary with 2 locations in Massachusetts, one in Pittsfield in the middle of the Berkshires and one in East Boston, just 5 minutes from Logan Airport. Both locations have tremendous selections showcasing exclusive brands. Berkshire Roots is always on the lookout to discover and create new products. Check them out or order ahead at berkshireRoots.com.
You would think that it is. However, there's quite a bit of debate right now in the accounting industry when it relates to cannabis with this exact question. I'm part of a few different networking groups that are solely accountants for cannabis companies. And there's been quite a bit of back and forth in those communities and discussion regarding whether 280E, if it went away, if the administration legalized cannabis or took it off of Schedule 1, what would happen? And it could go either way right now. The debate is it could make the accountant's life much easier. That's what a lot of the inexperienced accountants are saying right now, it seems. Whereas the accountants that have been in this industry for a while and have gone through the same thing that happened with hemp a few years ago are saying that it actually will make lives more difficult, because when hemp became declassified a while back, the accounting became more complicated.
All right. Well, Brandon, that was super interesting. Thank you very much. And we want to discuss 420 because, of course, the fun, great cannabis holiday is right around the corner. So let's discuss 420 and what it means to you, Josh. What do you think of when you think of 420 or hear 420?
Man, 420 was a big deal for a long time. You know, I hit up 20 stores on 420 for 6 years in a row just to kind of get an idea of what the industry was doing. So it kind of told me after a while that the 420 prices, the sales that we're seeing, crazy discounts, ended up being the everyday price 2 years later. But then, you know, COVID destroyed that pretty much. Everybody was offering discounts, 20-30% off. And so obviously Hemp Fest went away. There's a lot of events that went away. I'm in the Northwest, so we've been around 10 years and we don't have anything. So I have to go to Canada, like CannaCon, for example, popular in Oklahoma, but like they don't even operate in the state that they were founded in, because Washington and Oregon are just kind of over it, I guess. I don't know. Businesses are too busy and too broke to participate. So for me, 420, I was actually thinking this year, maybe I'll go up to Vancouver, BC. It's three hours away. Maybe I'll go and check out what that is, because they still have something going on. There's nowhere else I could go outside of California to participate in 420. But I don't think it's the biggest sales day of the year anymore, which is something we could talk about too, because that's normalization, right? When we see like Green Friday before Thanksgiving or New Year's Eve being bigger days than 420, that says a lot. Which is also sad that you can't get people off their couch for more than or for less than 30% off, myself included.
No, I feel the same way. And yeah, I agree. The 420 sales used to be amazing, even in glass, like the head shops and stuff to go around to them, and the glass shops. I mean, they still run the specials, but it's basically the specials are still like everyday prices. And yeah, they run some better specials, but it wasn't like it used to be 420. I remember, and this is going back some years, but I'll never forget the Cypress Hill album came out on a 420, Temples of Boom, and that was awesome. I was still in high school, and my dad actually went and got 2 copies, one for me and one for my neighbor, and we couldn't wait to get home and smoke and listen to it, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
And they were the times back then. And yeah, now 420, I mean, it's a good time. They have big festivals and, you know, sessions, and people obviously party, but like you said, it's not the biggest sales point of the year for cannabis. And yeah, New Year's Eve, I mean, the lines are around the block when you see a dispensary. It's crazy how much they're selling for that day. And 420 used to be the greatest. And I mean, I still, if the clock hits 420, I'm blazing. But yeah, the date and the time and everything, it's obviously we're gonna smoke, but it isn't the same that it used to be. I agree.
I think it rolls more with an MMJ market. So if you're in a medical marijuana market, it's new, it's exciting. You have lots of events, you have lots of things going on, and then you become a recreational or adult use state, and then things like normalize. So it's there's less people willing to go out because they've been there, done that. They don't want to do it again. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't done right. It was what we call a shit show, or a dirt show that's just not worth going to. So there's all those other reasons as well. It's gotta be worth your time. But I would say though, like a place like Missouri that still has, it's new, it's emerging, their sales are strong. Enjoy it while you can. Get out there, meet people, because it's like this is the new thing. A lot, like 80+% of those people are going to be gone in a couple of years because they just can't figure it out. But it's new and exciting. So yeah, I'm kind of jealous. Go out there and enjoy that scene, because it's not gonna really be around very long in the current state that it's in. There'll be like this middle point, I think, where where I'm at is grocery deserts. So like you got to go like miles away for a grocery store in either direction where I'm at by the airport. Apparently people don't go to grocery stores by SeaTac. And I think you're going to have the same thing where there's like this time frame desert in the cannabis industry where like it's really, really cool during medical marijuana market days. And then when you have adult use, there's a lot of stuff that lags in between there. Like when Canada had their 1.0 and 2.0, there was a lot of stuff missing from that market. And in Washington, 10 years, we have a felony on cannabis cafes. And so we're missing out on all of that. So I think as a result, of not having a cannabis cafe in all of these places is the lack of cool little tools and accessories. So yeah, there's all these vaporizers and these units are selling because they're hundreds of dollars, and so investors are like, hell yeah, but they don't really want to invent the new toker poker, which a lot of people use, like these little cool gadgets. So I think the gadgets need, especially like with AI, like I just made an AI picture of Mona Lisa smoking a joint. I mean, it was terrible. So there's always going to be a market for human people because she was smoking a joint backwards, which is even perfect because it's super stony. She's like inhaling the smoke instead of inhaling from the joint. But I don't know where I was going with that. But I guess there's opportunities out there to kind of create stuff where people want to come to, and that I think the cannabis cafe is like that window into the soul of the community that I keep mentioning. And when you normalize it, you take the stigma away, and it's just boring. Like, oh, there's no excitement here. It was all hype all to begin with. So as soon as we can get that, all of these rules and laws that I've covered for Washington, trying to overturn this Class C felony on maintaining and operating cannabis lounge, all these other places like Nevada that I'm going to have a tour for MJ BizCon to go to a bunch of cannabis lounges and do that. So we'll get some sponsorships, and Jimmy will be on the bus and we'll be hanging out. So join us, because I think it's something to experience when you can go and you see what all these people are offering. And it is just kind of a normalization tour to go and just see how mundane it really is. And it's going to have NIMBYs, the not in my backyard crew, are like, no, you can't do that. But once they see it, they're like, oh, taxes and no problems. Let's get rid of the bars and let's bring more of those in.
Yeah, and Missouri, like you're saying, it's just a new market, and they're just blowing it up. The regulations they seem to have on the right track right now in the beginning, because it seems like it's a pretty open market, and people are allowed to kind of run a business, and so it seems to be thriving. And yeah, they're having this huge festival. It's a block long with consumption lounges. I mean, that's a party you want to be attending, because you don't know how many there are going to be in the future, and it's just like could be a one in a lifetime event that you get to go and be a part of it, and they're just so much fun to be a part of. I always say when I go out west, I hop off the plane and rent the car, and I just go dispensary hopping. I mean, I literally hit every dispensary that I'm driving by and stop in and buy something from every one of them and talk to the people and just see what products they have and what's going on and the trends and everything. That's how you keep up on it. But I love it, and that's kind of like my 420 is just like dispensary hop, and I just love it. And
I could do that by myself. Actually, I do. When I was traveling for the Toro Alerts, the financial app that I have that tells you when to buy and sell stocks and crypto, I'm touring all over, going to Chicago, New York, San Francisco, all these places for work. And I'm in a suit, and nice shoes, and I'm running around going to like 10 dispensaries, and my my partner is like, hey man, I'm going to be on stage in like 10 minutes. Where you at? And I'm like sweating. I'm just coming from like my 13th dispensary. And I'm like, I'm almost there. So I take every opportunity I can when I travel. I'm going to be going to San Jose to pitch to some investors looking for some private equity capital to get our business further off the ground. And I was just looking at dispensaries in San Jose today to kind of do a little dispensary tour. You can get a lot out of that, out of the culture, out of what the offerings are. New York was interesting, going to a lot of the bodegas and, you know, sandwich ice cream trucks and the people on the street. Chicago, of course, you have your tablets like you do in Vegas. So it's just a good way to kind of see what people are doing and what the culture is, how they shop, what products are there. A lot of the same stuff, but yeah, it gives you a really good idea into kind of what people want or what they're at least offered. I want infused coffee, man. There are more Americans drink coffee than they drink water, and yet there is no infused coffee outside of Portland that I'm aware of. And I'm not talking about K cups or, you know, that. I'm talking about like grab and go, drink your coffee is not available, which is odd. As soon as we have that, that's when the whole industry is normalized and I can go home and stop promoting cannabis. You just know it's normal. That's it. That's it
Once
for
it
me.
hits the coffee market,
Yeah.
you know it. It'll be big time. Now, you had mentioned Vancouver, Canada. Have you ever been there?
Yeah, I'm only 3 hours away. So that's I bought my seeds when I first started growing in like 2010 or whatever. I went up and I was asking, you know, what's the funkiest strain? And they were like Jean Guy, spelled Gene Guy. And I was like, well, give me some of that Gene Guy. And then what was the other one? Damn, I can't remember, but like they were so pungent, like just knock you in your face, just delicious. And I remember buying these seeds, and my wife was like, she's not thinking anything of it. I'm freaking out. And that was the only reason we went up there. We drove all the way up there, bought them, and came back same day. And normally we stay up there for like a day or two and hang out. I'm frugal and I hate shopping. I feel like I'm in a cattle going into slaughter when I go shopping. That's how bad it is. I'm buying the same thing a million other people have bought. You know, like there's nothing unique or interesting or cool about shopping for me. And so when I do it, I'm like, let's go to Vancouver. We get 30% off. Of course, we're going to go check out some dispensaries. So I was like, yeah, let's go to the international district. It's the only place that's open right now. This is like 4 years ago before COVID shut the borders down for 3 years. So I go up into Chinatown and I check out this dispensary and I see this strain I've never seen before. It was called weed. And I was like, what's that a cross of? Is that an indica or sativa? And he's like, man, weed is weed. It's like this, you know, mid-30s white dude. And I was like, oh, okay. I'll take this other one over here. And I just like he literally put it in a sandwich bag and then licked it. And I was like, oh, this is the most authentic dispensary I've ever been in. This is phenomenal. This is a great experience. But I never went back because I felt like we were about to get murdered going through there. And that was before Hastings Street looks the way it is now. If you've been to Portland or any of these other cities that have been absolutely annihilated. I just saw a picture of Hastings that this dude took on a GoPro riding through the town on his bike up there, and it looks so bad. But it was like one of the sketchiest neighborhoods I've been through in a long time, like as bad as Skid Row, if not worse. And so I was like, I was feeling really guilty about like, it was okay if I had to like fight my way out of there, but to bring my wife through there, I felt pretty guilty. So I think we may have cabbed it back. I can't remember. It's pretty bad.
So yeah, you want to hear? I go to Vancouver one year for I go to Whistler for a ski trip. I'll never forget the day. It was the Super Bowl for the Patriots and the Eagles, the first one, and not the most recent one when the Patriots beat the Eagles back then. And so yeah, we actually fly out on Super Bowl Sunday, that Sunday, and we land in. We stay at the Vancouver Four Seasons. Now I travel with a buddy that's overseeing a Four Seasons in my area, so they fly them out there to check it out. And we're going to Whistler. The Whistler Four Seasons had only been open for 6 months, and we're staying there. That's where we're traveling to. We went skiing on the mountain for like a week. It was incredible. So we land in Vancouver, and we're at the Four Seasons, and I'm like, yo, where do you get chronic around here? And the dude outside, like, you know, that the parks the cars. He's like, yo, man, and it's late. He's like, dude, there's this one street called Hastings Street, but you got to be kind of careful. You don't want to be going down there right now. I'm like, where is it, buddy? It can't be that crazy. I'm I'm from Philly. I'm all right. I'm pretty street smart, but let me try this out. So my two buddies go upstairs. They pass out because we're drinking on the plane. It's a long day. I mean, we had to take like 3 flights. It was crazy. So we get there, and then, like I said, we watched the Super Bowl. So after that, I go down the Hastings Street, and it's like closed, dude. There's just like all these homeless people just like lying down the street. Now, this is a pretty long time ago at the first that I don't remember what year that was, but so I go down there, and like I'm just like walking around, and people are just like looking at me, and I'm like, yo, where the fuck you find chronic around here? And this dude's like, yo, come with me. And like you said, it's like the sketchiest thing. I'm like, dude, am I gonna like get killed? So I go into like this like little bar, and this fucking dude just like, how much you want, dude? And I'm like, I still have like American money. And back then our money was actually worth like a lot more than a Canadian. I remember we'd get like 120 to like the 100. So it was way better deal. And I'm like, look, I don't even have, I'm like, yo, all I have is American money. He's like, look, dude, I'll hook you up. He's like, here, you want like a whole ounce for $100? I'm like, what? And he just hands me this fucking bag like this, like an ounce. And it's banging like beasters back then, like some nice ass nugs. And I'm like, fuck, dude, this works for me. So I give him the $100, and the dude tells me, he's like, yo, you better be fucking careful out of here. It's not exactly the safest area. He's like, yo, bang a left and get out of here. So I walk out, like there's all these homeless people like, rah, like screaming at me, and I'm just like, I just like take off running back to the Four Seasons, and I get back, and the dude's just like looking at me like, he's like, dude, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I just met up with some dude, and it was a crazy street, but I'm all good. And he's just looking at me like, dude, you must be one crazy guy. So I go back up to the room, and I tell my buddies, I'm like, yo, dude, look what I just got. And they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, where the heck did you go? And so I was telling them. So then during the daytime, like we go down, I'm like, yeah, we gotta go check out this street. I didn't know anything of it that night. Like I had no idea everything was closed. So we go down there, and there's like legitimate like smoke shops. Like you can go in and smoke cannabis, but you can't smoke cigarettes. They actually, I'll never forget, they had like a glass room inside with like an exhaust system, and you'd have to go in there if you wanted to smoke an actual cigarette.
That's the
or
New
cigar.
Amsterdam Cafe.
That's exactly what it was. Yep.
It's across the street from the Bulldog Cafe, which is owned by the Hells Angels, and it's right next to Mark Emery's Cannabis Culture Lounge as well.
So right next to the New Amsterdam Cafe, right, literally, you walk out that door, and as soon as you like go like 2 steps, you open up another door, and you go up these steps, and you go up, and literally, dude's just sitting there with a fucking scale and like a pound of weed sitting on a table, and you just walk in, and he's like, how much you want? And you're like, I don't know, like $40-50. He's like, give me 80 and I'll just really hook you up. And I mean, dude just like grabs a handful and throws it on a scale. Doesn't he? Looks at it, he's like, that's cool. It's like, I'm like, dude, that's like crazy amount. Like, good price for me. So we literally go back down to the cafe right next door and smoke like an ounce in a day. Like just start rolling these entire big joints the size of the table. We're just licking like papers together, just being stupid because we have all this cannabis, like all this chronic, and just didn't even matter. And yeah, that place was amazing, and that was way before like anything in the US was.
It's also before Mark Emery got nailed, because he can't do that anymore. So he sells $5 joints still and $5 dabs, and he's got dab rigs everywhere. They got a cool vending machine that I took some video of. Nice. That you can buy some stuff in the vending machine. But I think Whistler would be pretty dope. It reminds me a lot of Europe, because it's a lot of the clubs are super small up there, and Whistler Village is kind of neat.
It is a very cool place,
but it's small, and I could see a ton of activity to have cannabis cafes up in there, because they have like a BMX competition in the summer and the outdoor beer garden. When I went snowboarding in the spring, I came down and ran into a bear, and we had to take our snowboards off and hike up and over and out of the bear's way. And it was just kicking it, like, so there's a lot of things to do up there. And, you definitely want to be, have your head on a swivel. But it's a cool town. I like it a lot. And there's a lot to offer. Not just like good cannabis, but the lakes and the hiking and the opportunities for cannabis cafes. Cause at 2 o'clock, those bars open up and just streams of kids and like drunk people everywhere, and not enough, munchy establishments to satisfy everybody's needs at that time of hour. But you can have some cafes too, and you can kind of maybe balance out that the craziness, because you get the, like British and Australians love to they'll just get wasted. Just put it the way it is. They love to get wasted. Yeah, they love to party. So maybe, I don't know, add a little bit more mellow Amsterdam in there and chill it out a little bit. But it's a cool spot. I'm gonna be digging how they open that up. It'll probably be a lot sooner than Seattle. I've always thought that the vibe here would be kind of cool. Just all the water, mountain, oceans, lakes, the outdoorness. We just recently, and by recent, like in 10 years, started getting rooftop bars and establishments like they got in Cali and normal places. Maybe that's like, global warming or whatever. But I'll take it. It's been nice having more than 60 days of nice weather. So when that pops off, that'll be a great opportunity. But you'll still get the same people that have issues with the smell, the cigar bar, and maybe the New Amsterdam Cafe, where that concept where they did have that glass enclosure in the corner with the crazy exhaust system, everything that worked really well. Everyone could see there was no nefarious stuff. I did see a dude come in with a triple beam scale. Kids, it's non-digital. It's like 2 feet long. It weighs a lot, and it's not discreet at all. And this dude straight up rolled in there, opened up his triple beam, and straight up tried to. And the guys were like, "You got to get out! What are you doing? Get out!" And he got kicked out. But it was amazing to watch. It was awesome.
That's pretty hilarious. Yeah, and that was like the first time I ever seen cannabis shops or anything. Back then they had like seed stores, and they actually had all the equipment. So like I said, if you were looking at New Amsterdam Cafe, right to the left, that door, it was basically you go up the steps and buy chronic. And then if you look right to the right, it was a huge store with all the growing equipment and seeds and anything you wanted. And yeah, I remember we spent a couple days in Vancouver. Most of our time was in Whistler, but yeah, while I was in Vancouver, I was on Hastings Street. But Vancouver used to be it's a very beautiful city. I don't know what it looks like. Like I said, there was a lot of homeless back then, but it was very clean. But I can only imagine, the amount that's I mean, if they keep it clean, it's still clean, but it was still, like I said, I walked down that street at night and it wasn't exactly a safe place you wanted to be. I was pretty glad I'm street smart, and I I look at everybody and just give them that nod and say hi, and they just kind of look at you like, this guy might be crazier than me, so I might not approach him.
Yeah.
But that's the way you got to act when you're doing something like that.
Totally. Yeah, I was gonna go up there like last month or something, and then I got a hotel, and there was like this investment conference, and for some reason, like I just wasn't feeling it. It's like, I don't want to drive 3 hours. Forget it. I'm not going. So I ended up not going. But yeah, Vancouver is definitely a lot more gritty than it used to be in its pockets. So like the waterfront where the convention center is at is decent, is nice. The shopping district is going to be a little bit more gritty than anyone expected 3 years ago. And then, man, international districts and Hastings is Hastings is still part of shopping, goes all the way down there, but it's a lot grittier than it used to be. They're going to try and clean that up, but it's going to take a while. Businesses, man, I was just in the international district for the Cherry Blossom Festival in Seattle, and I was kind of surprised by how many buildings were shut down there. Like maybe they should overturn that felony, allow for some cannabis cafes to drive some business in there, because it was looking pretty nasty. I saw, no joke, after taking the exit off Dearborn to get to International, I saw 2 people doing drugs, and then walking around with my wife, there was a third guy smoking meth or whatever you use Reynolds wrap in a lighter for.
Usually not chronic.
Yeah, it wasn't weed, I can tell you that. So, and there was literally a cop in a car right there, and he didn't see him or didn't care.
He didn't care. It wasn't worth his time.
Yeah. So I think like we can really kind of not have to board up an entire city block building and board it up. Why can't we turn that into a cannabis friendly hotel, or some kind of establishment where you have mixed use. Maybe you have a cannabis co-working space up above and then a cannabis cafe down below. Like, offer it instead of boarding it up and making it a blight to where people are doing drugs all over. It's pretty nasty. I think we can use cannabis, the revenue, the community, the culture, and the care that people bring to empower a city, empower the people, and preserve some of that culture. Because some of these areas, man, like King County, where I'm at in Seattle, has a mass exodus. It's not as bad as California. When you look at people where they're leaving, there's like droves of people leaving out of these areas, and they all seem to be going towards either warmer climates or less crazy climates. Interpret that however you want. And it's like, I love Seattle, man. I was raised here, but like, damn, how much of this crazy stuff can you take before you're like, I'm just going to go somewhere else that accepts it, like Vegas. I get warmer weather, better taxes, and they allow cannabis cafes and everything else. Why am I going to stick around Seattle? I love it all 60 days of the year where it's nice, but at some point I'm like, this is insane. Like, I'll tell you this. I'm right by the SeaTac airport. I've had more people knock on my door asking for food and money. I made a homeless dude dinner or lunch one time. I felt bad for him. I've had more homeless people in a year that I've been at this house than I've had trick-or-treaters in a decade.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy, dude.
I've had less than 3 people knock on my door in 12 years. I've had 3 kids knock on my door in 12 years. And in the last 12 months, I've had 3 homeless people.
That's crazy.
So
that's pretty crazy.
It is, man. But like, what can we do with the cannabis revenue, right? Like, finally, I got a thing to vote on raising taxes in order to provide the kind of mental, social stability required, healthcare, right? Healthcare. And why do we need to raise taxes? Why can't we just overturn that felony? That is the tax system that could solve this health problem. I even put in my own bill that I spent years writing, researching dozens and dozens, well, not dozens, but like 12 or 13 bills to figure out what the best way to implement mine for Washington State. And a lot of that was, okay, we're not going to do what California's doing and offer a safe injection heroin site, but we could, okay, because they wanted to charge $100,000. King County wanted to charge $100,000 a month to offer a safe injection site. If you're going to be that insane, let's at least overturn the felony, allow for a cannabis cafe, and then you can do your whatever you're doing in the back. Do not charge these taxpayers when you could do it for free. And that's kind of like, I'm like, you guys are insane. What are we doing here? So I got a big problem with the way that some of these cities are handling their cannabis laws. It doesn't seem to be rational or logic at all. But I still see the benefit of it. I'm actually stepping down as the head of the committee to do it because I have lost my patience, and you have to have a certain level of professionalism, and foaming at the mouth is not working and that's all I can do at this point is just froth and get pissed off. So I'm like, I'm out. You guys want to put all this crazy shit in this bill? I'm out. Cancel my membership. Peace out.
It just gets out of control, like you said. It's just like,
you need fresh blood. I've been doing it I've been waiting for 10 years. Since 2015, I've been on this committee, either as a subcommittee member or chairman of the committee. And I've spent countless hours. And when you don't get anywhere, it's like, okay, do I just do this on my own, or should I just pass the buck and just let it go? And I'm just going to pass the buck and let it go. Because it's going to happen eventually. I wish I would have just gone off on my own and not got tied into a group that had their own motives. So it's important to be part of a cannabis committee and coalition and group with lobbyists, but they have their own agenda too. And there's a lot of messed up things in every single state, especially when it's regulated. Medical, you can pretty much do what you want. And once you get more regulated, you get more issues, and then you get more groups with more of their own personal agendas. And it's really annoying, as a matter of fact, when all these individuals kind of come in and then they join the committees because they want their own agenda. And then once stuff passes, and they go away. Like, whoa, really? Okay, that's cool. And I see that a lot, unfortunately.
No, it is very annoying because again, you're on there for years and years. You really care about the industry, the plant, the people involved, and then you get a bunch of lobbyists with money and they pat somebody's pocket and they get done what they need to do and then they just disappear. You never see them again, and you're like, what the hell just happened? I can't get anything done. These idiots walk in for 3 minutes, they know nothing about the industry, and somehow it got done. Like, yeah, that's
So
called.
I wish Missouri all the best. Enjoy it while you can. Push the laws. Don't settle for second best. Look at the Petri dish experiment out here and do it the right way. That's my advice.
I'm with you with that. Yeah, just push the limits as much as you can, as early as you can. Don't sit back and wait for any stupid regulations because they just don't know what they're doing. They have no idea. And yeah, the people making the choices just don't know the industry. They don't know the plant. They don't care. It's all about who's patting their pockets and politics. Unfortunately, we're in an industry that's just gets seesawed between politics, and then you're just in the middle of it trying to run a business, and you get destroyed somehow. And it's not exactly fun. But Missouri, you guys get it right and make the rest of the country get it right, because it looks like that one festival and event is starting off nice, and I can't wait to see that 420 event.
Yeah.
So thank you, Brandon, again for all the great footage that you gave us.
Yeah, all good stuff with 420 coming up. Should be exciting to see. And yeah, best of luck to the cannabis cafes. Should be awesome. So whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly, as Jimmy would say. And we'll see you guys all later.
Coming up on We Talk News this week, big changes in Major League Baseball on the field and off the field. The Chicago Cubs are the first team to accept a CBD manufacturer as a sponsor. Germany is rewriting its proposed cannabis legalization laws. Washington State is ready to set up interstate commerce. Canadian giant Tilray has acquired its rival Hexo as big weed gets bigger in Canada. And with 420 next week, a new survey shows that cannabis consumers are very aware of what that date means and what impact it might have on their consumption habits. All that and more on We Talk News with Elena Pinto. Next.
So for years, we've been doing manufacturing, financial services, medical, and so forth on businesses that stand alone, from doctors' offices to day traders to even small banks. And so when cannabis came along, all of the tools, skills, and miscellaneous that we learned in there, we were able to apply it for them. And for us, it wasn't that big of a problem or a challenge. It worked great. And so they just needed a reporting feature in one software, and luckily that the software company came through for us, came it back, and now it's become the backbone for our offerings, and it's worked out incredibly well.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Weed Talk News. I'm Elena Pinto. Our lead story this week comes from the world of sports, specifically Major League Baseball. The Chicago Cubs, one of the oldest and most storied franchises in history, is now being sponsored by a CBD beverage company. Mind is spelled with a Y instead of an I and is based in Chicago. It's a CBD beverage brand, and that beverage will now be available at various concession stands at Wrigley Field. There will be baseline signage, in-game promotions, and the Cubs have also negotiated international exclusive marketing rights for the company. Major League Baseball has allowed clubs to pursue CBD advertising dollars since last year, but this is the first deal to be accepted and announced. Another sign of normalization, perhaps? Peanuts, Cracker Jacks, and wash it down with a CBD beverage called Mind. How about that? Thomas Howard from Cannabis Legalization News has more from Illinois.
What's happening, everybody? It's me, Tom. You can find me at CannabisIndustryLawyer.com, and I'm here with the Illinois update for the week of April 14th, 2023. In Illinois, it will soon be illegal for an officer to have probable cause if they stop you and smell cannabis coming out of your vehicle. This comes from a case that actually was handed down by an Illinois court a couple of years ago and now is going to be codified by two bills working their way through the Illinois legislature, Senate Bill SB 125 and also SB 1886. Since 2020, over 492,000 Illinoisans have been pardoned for low-level cannabis offenses. That's really what's happening in Illinois. Plus, the state is closing in, or has recently passed, $4 billion of legal cannabis sales. And back to you, Elena.
People in the United States are starting to understand and accept the 420 reference for the cannabis industry. In Europe, however, it's a big mystery. So is what's going on in Germany, where momentum for full legalization for adult use has taken a different turn. And Lex Pelger has details from across the pond.
I'm Lex Pelger from Whitewell Creation with this week's European Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. In Europe, a time of legislative uncertainty. The big news is in Germany. No details yet, but after EU talks, it may be considering a cannabis light model. This may mean a trial model like its neighbor Switzerland. While disappointing to some activists, many business leaders saw this as inevitable to stay within EU law, and after pushback from neighboring France. The revised bill with the full details is supposed to be submitted soon. In Czech, one of the most liberal cannabis countries in the EU, the government has approved a new drug strategy through 2025. It includes the introduction of a strictly regulated cannabis market. Again, details are supposed to be coming soon. And then finally in Luxembourg, the country's plan to allow residents to grow 4 cannabis plants is facing pushback from some lawmakers as well as the country's 3 neighbors, who fear it being carried across the border. Advocates argue it's legal under EU law, though not international law, because they would not completely legalize the plant, only allow home consumption under strict rules. That's the European Cannabis Report for this week. For more on the science side, see my newsletter on Substack, Cannabinoids and the People. I'm Lex Pelger from Whitewell Creations for Weed Talk News.
Washington State is getting into their interstate commerce discussion with other West Coast states, and now they are ready to deal. Just one of the stories from one of the first states to legalize cannabis over 10 years ago. They are still trying to balance control with an open market, but here's Matthew Friedlander with more on that.
Hello, everyone. Matthew Friedlander coming to you from the owner's office here at Skagit Organics with the Washington State Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. We have had an interesting week here in Washington. Last week, the LCB announced that they found DDT and DDD in some cannabis samples that they determined came from a cluster of licensees in a specific area here in Washington. These farms are located on old apple orchards, and DDT was a common pesticide that was used up until the 1970s. This pesticide obviously has been hanging out in the soil, and as most of us are probably aware, cannabis is a very good soil remediator. But what this means is that the DDT has been getting drawn up into the cannabis material. So the LCB decided to put an administrative hold on 18 licenses, and that effectively meant that 18 businesses were unable to do any business whatsoever. They were given no notice, and the LCB is now considering some emergency rules around this pesticide. It looks like DDT will be added to the list of pesticides tested for here in Washington. And I would imagine that this is going to spread to some other states with legal cannabis as well. On a brighter note, we did get arrest protection passed for medical cannabis patients here in Washington. Before that, they had to rely on affirmative defense, which meant that the cops could come in, destroy a person's garden, and they were presumed guilty until innocent. And then they could go to court and try to prove their innocence. Not really how it should work. So we are very excited. Arrest protection has been passed here in Washington, and it now goes to the governor's office. That's what I got for you this week here in Washington. My name is Matthew Friedlander, reporting for Weed Talk News. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks.
Another month and another sales record for cannabis sales in the state of Missouri. March sales reached over $126 million, and now industry observers believe that state is ready to enter into the billion-dollar world of cannabis. On top of a growing market comes more jobs, as the Show Me state is starting to show the world how the cannabis business is supposed to work. Brandon Jones has more.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones from Be Green Distribution with a weekly cannabis report for Weed Talk News, sponsored by Baker Brands. That's right. And yes, I'm here in downtown Kansas City where they're setting up for KC Cannafest. It is going to be crazy. People like Kyle Cushman, performances from Mendo Dope, and all of the local dispensaries, cultivators, home growers are all going to be here. And we're right by where the actual NFL draft is going to be. We're on Grand Boulevard and 19th Street in downtown Kansas City. So if you're in the area on Friday or Saturday, you better come down to 19th and Grand and check out the Cannafest. And I can't believe it. Yes, I skipped over the huge story. Missouri sales 125 million. They thought 103 was going to be a record and not to be surpassed. The following month, we topped it with 125 million in sales in just the cannabis space here in Missouri. So Missouri is popping. Kansas City is where events are happening. The next event on 420. If you don't know about it yet, I don't know where you've been. Wiz, Burner, Joey Badass, they're all going to be here. Word on the street, Mike Tyson and Ric Flair themselves are going to be here showing up at the event. There'll be a cannabis village where you can actually consume, and another part of the place where you can buy alcohol, so you cannot mix, but there will be consumption allowed there. You can actually order from the dispensary and have it delivered to the venue, be able to smoke the cannabis that you saw somebody else smoking. Like, man, that smelled good. I want to try that. Go on your app, download the Besame app, push what you want. 20 minutes later, there's going to be a delivery service lined up just like an Uber line where you can just go up, show them your ID, prove that you paid for your purchase, and get your cannabis consumed at the event. So if don't have any plans for 420, you should get out to Kansas City. Again, I'm Brandon Jones with Be Green Distribution with the Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Everybody stay educated and medicated. Have a great week.
Brandon Jones, Missouri Cannabis Report is brought to you by Baker Brands, a curated B2B marketplace for head shops and dispensaries.
So, what impact has this acquisition had on Tilray's publicly traded stock? Well, that's why we have Doug Miller from High on Wall Street to explain that to all of us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Doug Miller from High on Wall Street with this week's cannabis stock report for Weed Talk News. Tilray, they disclosed a $1.2 billion quarterly loss, but they still plan to buy Hexo for $56 million. I do not understand what these companies are doing, but let's go ahead and look at the stock chart. Tilray, they're trading at 248 and it is curling up, so they're doing something right at the moment, but we'll keep an eye on that one. And Hexo, that's around 117. If you remember, about a month ago, it was in the 160s, and I said it was pulling back to the 140s, but it was looking good and setting up. Well, that news was Tilray buying Hexo. I generally see these things about a month or two before they happen because of the stock charts, and that's exactly what happened. It popped on that news, but then it pulled back to 117 area right now, and it looks like it's going to continue to dip. So I'll keep my eye on it. That's this week's cannabis stock report, reporting for Weed Talk News. I'm Doug Miller.
Hello again, everyone. This is the Michigan Report with Rick Thompson on Weed Talk News. Let's begin. We have 3 stories this week from the You Really Can't Do That files to share with you. The first bad example is a continuation to the story we've been reporting on for some months now, the cannabis corruption scandal in which 3 former speakers of the House and 2 former Senate majority leaders have been implicated. Charges have been formally filed against former Speaker Rick Johnson and 3 others for offering or accepting bribes in an influence peddling scheme to advance the licensing of medical cannabis businesses back in 2017 and 2018. All of those 4 men charged have taken plea deals and admitted to their roles in the crime. Johnson was the head of the extremely powerful Marijuana Licensing Board, which filtered out prospective cannabis businesses based on their moral character and perceived fitness to operate a business in the cannabis space. The board was disbanded by Governor Whitmer shortly after she won her election in 2018. Johnson was a lobbyist when he was appointed to the board, but supposedly divested himself from the money part of the industry before taking the chairmanship. The charges are federal and the investigations continue. All experts expect more people to be caught up in the federal net, and we'll keep you updated. The next story is a tale of epic stupidity, which should serve as a lesson to all of us playing on a statewide scale, and maybe a few individuals who have a national audience. Now, here's some friendly cannabis news advice. If you feel like telling a judge that they're a corrupt individual, just don't. Don't. Take the case of a person that the Lansing City Pulse describes as a wannabe marijuana magnate. That's Michael Doherty of Rebel Industries, a Michigan cannabis company. Doherty has a long history of stupidity when it comes to how he conducts himself publicly. In the early years of the cannabis business program, Doherty published a video of himself in front of a table filled with thousands of dollars in cash, bragging about his success and his abilities. Well, last year, his Rebel company was placed in receivership because Doherty didn't meet his financial obligations to his lenders. At that time, Doherty made unkind statements about the legal system passing judgment on him, including some unwarranted attacks on the judge presiding over his case. Well, he made those statements again, but this time it was in a courtroom setting. Doherty was in court to face criminal contempt charges for writing threatening emails to principals in the case. Now, while acting as his own attorney, Doherty refused to take the witness stand when ordered to do so by the judge, then repeatedly called the judge corrupt to her face. Doherty now has 93 days to think about how he could have better phrased his unhappiness as the judge slapped his entitled ass with a contempt of court order and he was led away in handcuffs. You can watch a video of the bad kabuki theater that is Doherty's performance on reporter Todd Haywood's YouTube channel. Now, I'm trying to think, is there any other national figure who makes a regular thing out of calling prosecutors and judges corrupt? I think there's this one guy. In our last Don't Do That segment, we have exclusive brands and their misadventures in cannabis-friendly Gaylord, a Michigan city in the central part of the Lower Peninsula. In a February council meeting, Exclusive was told their operations were not in alignment with city codes. Specifically, their lighting was not in compliance with codes, and they were not to open their store until they fixed that problem. Well, they didn't listen. A little more than 2 weeks later, they opened with the incorrect lighting anyway. But you know how it is when you feel like you can break rules and not have any consequences. You tend to break even more rules. According to reporting by the news outlet The Center Square, Exclusive Brands erected a tent in their parking lot without a permit. They violated the prohibition against using words or images associated with marijuana on their building, and they offered curbside delivery, which is expressly forbidden in Gaylord's ordinance. When your screw-ups number 1, 2, 3, 4, you don't get to play anymore, and the council revoked their license to operate in the city. They were open less than a month. Attorneys for the city expect to plead for a reissuance of their operating license at an April 10 council meeting. Exclusive has 8 other dispensaries across Michigan. And I do have to note the passing of cannabis industry figure Robert Platshorn in Florida. Known as the Black Tuna, Platshorn served more than 30 years in federal prison for being a world-famous drug smuggler. Bobby was an author and a friend, as well as a cannabis entrepreneur who had his own line of products sold through the True Leaf dispensary chain in his home state. Best wishes to his family and friends. And that's it for the Michigan Report with Rick Thompson on Weed Talk News.
The race to become the 22nd state in the union to legalize adult use of cannabis in the US is still in a holding pattern. Delaware could have that honor as soon as their governor, John Carney, decides he will sign the bill. However, he's ignoring it right now, which he has the right to do. But it can still become law without his signature, and a press release is expected to announce his plans on Friday, April 14th. Meanwhile, Maryland and Washington, D.C. is where we find Weed Talk News' Andrew Beringer, and here's his report from our nation's capital and neighboring legal state of Maryland.
Hello, my name is Andrew Beringer, and this is the D.C. area report for Weed Talk News. In federal news, another federal court has ruled that it is unconstitutional to ban medical cannabis patients from certain gun rights. As it stands now, if you apply to become a medical cannabis patient in your state, most likely your Second Amendment right will be in jeopardy. Why, you may ask? Primarily, it has to do with cannabis being a Schedule I drug and still federally illegal. Currently, there are 4 ongoing cases at the federal level regarding this topic. You could speculate that these types of laws are creating a new gateway avenue for medical cannabis patients who try to obtain a gun through illegal methods. Now, where have we heard that before? In Virginia news, in a quick one-day return to the Capitol, legislators in Virginia returned to approve some minor amendments from the governor in reference to a hemp bill. These new regulations, for instance, a $1,000 registration fee for all businesses wanting to sell hemp products, will go into effect July 1st. Some people say that these new amendments are only helping big cannabis companies trying to control the industry in the state. Finally, in Maryland news, insert drum roll here. It's official, Maryland. State legislators have approved a cannabis bill that has passed the House and Senate and now awaits the governor's signature. As I stated before, this bill will create the infrastructure and framework for the upcoming adult use market in Maryland, which starts July 1st, 2023. Congratulations, Maryland. You did it. Well done. Well, that's all I have for you in Weed Talk News. My name is Andrew Beringer, and this is the DC Area Report. Don't forget to have a happy 420.
The great state of Texas is getting closer to reforming their cannabis laws, and a major step happened this week when the State House of Representatives passed a bill that will allow cannabis to be used as an opioid alternative for people with chronic pain. Not only will that be allowed, but they are also clearing the way for an increase in THC limitations for the plant grown in the state for their medical program. It was just 2 weeks ago that House of Representative Council approved statewide decriminalization and a plan for expungement of cannabis possession crimes. In Oregon, that state's second largest dispensary chain, La Moda, continues to grow, but a grant for workforce development might have to be rescinded. Marianne Kersagi has more.
I'm Marianne from Alibi with this week's Oregon Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. The story about La Moda, which is the second largest dispensary chain in Oregon, keeps getting bigger. They were initially outed for back taxes of over $3 million. And now a nonprofit recently co-founded by the CEO of La Moda received a $500,000 grant from the Oregon Bureau of Labor and Industries for workforce training. As it turns out, the nonprofit endeavor planned on training only 4 people with that grant funding. The state has subsequently canceled the grant and has requested all remaining funds to be returned. Next, Real Estate Witch collaborated with Leafly to look at data nationwide and determine which city is best for stoners. Portland, Oregon was the top in terms of access and affordability. And finally, Oregon industry and lobbyists continue to fight for science to be applied to rules related to mold and mycotoxins. In Colorado, for example, irradiation is a common procedure to comply with their strict rules. Oregon's rules are heading that way, and the industry is pushing back with scientific data showing that there are better ways to protect consumers. That'll do it for the Oregon Report this week. I'm Marianne with Alibi for Weed Talk News.
10 days ago, a Vermont grower decided he would try to illegally deliver a supply of cannabis to an unlicensed operator in New York. Posting the delivery on Instagram was probably not the smartest way to document the deal, and that grower was delivered a $20,000 fine. Jessie Lynn Dolan has more from the Green Mountain State.
I'm Jessie Lynn Dolan from Vermont Cannabis Nurses, and this is the Weed Talk News Vermont Report. Lamoille Connect presents the second annual 420 event Uplift. The event will be held at Stowe Cider from 5 to 9 p.m. with live music from Green Lion Crew, Medisun, and Corey Faya. Tickets are available at 7daystickets.com. Hetty Vermont has kicked off the judging phase of its signature event, the 4th annual Hetty's Cup, featuring both home grow and adult use tracks for the first time ever. Cup organizers have rescheduled the awards party for Saturday, May 20th. On Friday, April 14th, the Vermont Growers Association hosts their monthly community discussion, The Market is What We Make It, for cultivators by cultivators. Vermont growers are also asking for a community call to action for needed reform to the cannabis bill currently taken up in the Senate. Reforms include a community reinvestment fund, much needed updates to the medical program, and expanding agricultural benefits for outdoor cultivation, as well as manufacturing income limits. For the easy-to-use campaign tool and to take action, visit vermontgrowers.org. That's the Vermont Report for Weed Talk News. I'm Vermont's cannabis nurse, Jessie Lynn Dolan.
The Vermont Cannabis Report is supported by another Green Mountain business, Cannatrol, winner of High Times Best Dry Cure System. Check them out at cannatrols.com.
In Massachusetts, Caroline's Cannabis of Uxbridge is the latest dispensary operator to turn to the legal system to challenge the host community impact fees many in the state of Massachusetts have to fork over to their host cities and towns. Those fees, up to 3% of sales, can build up quickly for a successful operator like Caroline Frankel, the owner of that dispensary. PCM founder Jimmy Young has that story and a story of a former sportscaster comrade of his who got busted for possession back in 1994.
I'm Jimmy Young with the Massachusetts Cannabis Report, sponsored by Holyoke Cannabis for Weed Talk News. Caroline Frankel is a cult hero of sorts in the Bay State cannabis market. Caroline's Cannabis of Uxbridge was one of the first social equity applicants to open in the Bay State in 2019. She's earned a lot of respect from the industry because she filled out all the official forms with no legal assistance, all by herself. Needless to say, she saved thousands of dollars in that process. Now, with Hopedale added to her Uxbridge location, Caroline is suing the town of Uxbridge over $1.4 million of payments made for those controversial town impact fees. Now, the lawsuit is over a year old now, but is finally getting some attention thanks to the reporting of freelance journalist Grant Smith Ellis. Now, there is another dispensary in Haverhill with a lawsuit against that town over the same impact fees that are part of the current law. However, many believe these fees are not necessary, certainly not anymore, now that it's a few years into the legalization of adult use in Massachusetts. And many communities recognize that the impact on the community of opening a dispensary has not been very impactful at all. These fees were put in place at the start of the industry because of the novelty and the expected increase in traffic. Now it's just another business opening in another town, perhaps a sign of normalization and acceptance, perhaps. In the meantime, on Wednesday night at the Summit Lounge in Worcester, Pro Cannabis Media produced a special live edition of In the Weeds, and I was joined by Mike Adams of Planet Mikey fame. He happens to be my old comrade at New England Cable News, and he was my guest host. Now, when you've known someone for over 37 years, you think you know them pretty well. Well, Mike was actually busted for cannabis possession back in 1994, and I never got all the full details of what happened to him. And since we love to tell the stories of those who have been mistreated by society, here's Mike's story. Mike, I need to ask you a question as a talk show host and a friend.
Yeah.
and it has to do with what happened in the 90s.
Oh, jeez. You mean my famous bust?
The Mike Adams was busted for weed in the 90s while he was on New England Cable News. And by the way, he never got suspended. Am I
Never
right?
lost my job. no.
Never lost his
No.
job, which we have to give credit to the management.
Well, I had pictures of all the management.
Of course you did.
You know,
In your office?
last
I don't
thing-
want to go there.
Last thing they wanted to do was see those things hit the streets. But yeah, I got busted in a car wash. It was
Sparkle.
Mr. Sparkle in Vernon, Connecticut. I mean, this is all public record, so I'm not saying anything that hasn't been told before. You know, I used to get home at 2:00 in the morning because I lived in Connecticut.
He
And the show
commuted,
was
that's
in-
right.
The show was in Newton, Mass.
My hometown, just for the record.
So I'd get home at 2 a.m., whatever, 1:45, and I pull into a car wash. My car was a mess, and I go in there, I start vacuuming the car because it was a mess. Well, I'd forgotten that Bill Lee and others were in the back seat of my car earlier that night.
Oh, you're going to throw Bill Lee under the bus?
I'm not saying it was his or mine, but there was weed in the back seat in a little baggie. So the cop pulls up, and I got the hose going. You know, it's like loud. You know how loud those vacuums are at the car wash.
Yeah, I used to work at scrubbing up a car wash.
Yeah, for $1, they make a lot of noise. So I'm in there, you know, the cop taps me on the shoulder, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I look at him, I'm like, "The vacuum is lit." He can hear it. I put it on his shirt, like.
You didn't do that.
Yeah, I said, "I'm vacuuming my car." You know, and I started to go back in there. Stand back, stand back. So the officer's name is Tim Murphy.
Ooh, like the old coach. Actually, Harvard football coach is Tim Murphy.
So I stand back, and he shines the light in the car, and there's this little baggie in the back seat, and it had about, I don't know, 1/4 ounce of weed in it. So he goes, "What is that? Pull that out of there." I pull out the bag, I hold it up. It's got like a bud, a couple of roaches in there, you know. Cop says, "What is that?" I'm thinking, this guy's a real moron. He doesn't know this is a vacuum. He doesn't know this is weed. I said, "It looks like pot to me," you know. Handcuffs me.
I can't believe this.
Takes
by
me
the
into the
way.
police station. Now, the
I don't think I've
problem
ever
with it
heard
was
the
it
whole-
wasn't that much weed or anything. It wasn't in any big trouble, but it made 8 newspapers.
Right.
Hartford Courant, Journal Enquirer, Springfield Union,
right.
Worcester, Globe, Herald, and USA Today.
Woohoo!
In the state by state, you know, it'll say, you know, Oregon.
Right.
Man finds bisexual duck.
Right.
You know, and then it said Connecticut, sportscaster busting. That's me. Now they dropped the charges. I had first offense status, whatever, but it made all the newspapers. And you know what the date was? April 20, 4/20.
Oh, you're kidding.
1994.
I didn't, see, that's why I wanted to hear the whole story. I don't think I ever heard the whole story.
4/20/94. I was 40 years old.
That's this week's Massachusetts Cannabis Report, sponsored by Holyoke Cannabis. I'm Jimmy Young reporting for Weed Talk News.
Bay State Cannabis Report is supported by Holyoke Cannabis, Holyoke's finest cannabis recreational experience.
And finally, Air Wellness, a multi-state operator in cooperation with global insights platform Suzy, polled 900 U.S. consumers about their observations of the 420 holiday. And the results were interesting. A few weeks ago, we reported that one medical dispensary in Massachusetts, Temescal Wellness, is giving its employees the day off with pay. So how do you celebrate on 420? Well, according to the poll, 39% of cannabis consumers will take a personal day holiday of their own. 31% consider 420 a special occasion. 71% of respondents reported that their consumption patterns will not change on that day. And while 23% did indicate that they would consume more, how much more? The pollsters didn't ask. But it is one of the busiest days for the industry. And a good time for us to remind you that it is a whole new world of weed out there, so use it responsibly. And Pro Cannabis Media will observe 420 by not producing our weekly show next week. Instead, we will be celebrating ourselves, and we'll have a live special Green Rush Live, taking a look at some of the 420 celebrations from coast to coast and news from the day before. That's Weed Talk News for this week. I'm Elena Pinto. Thank you for joining.
It's a whole new world of weed out there, isn't it? Everyone is learning new ways to titrate, ingest, consume, imbibe, and engage with this plant medicine we call cannabis. Hi, I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and the host of In the Weeds, and once in a while, the really live business cannabis talk show we call Green Rush on Friday afternoons from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. Now let me tell you my cannabis story. You know, I've had 4 major surgeries in the past 23 years and suffer from osteoarthritis with a variety of metal parts in my body and one on deck. Now, thanks to those chronic pain issues, I've been a medical patient in Massachusetts for almost 10 years now. I remember my first trip to a dispensary just outside of Boston, and I told the bud tender I didn't want to smoke it anymore, so I tried edibles, then tinctures, then vaping, and now, if I'm going to smoke, I only use the Weegits filtration system. What? The Weegits.com, Weegits, that's weed, W-E-E-D, G-E-T-S.com, is where you'll find the planet's coolest product that cools the smoke from everyone's favorite flower. Now, the guy that started this was a pretty good medical device manufacturer, and he created this maze pipe that cools the smoking process from 1300 degrees Fahrenheit upon inflammation down to just 90 degrees when it reaches your mouth. That's right, 1300 down to 90. That's why this maze pipe is amazing. So here's how it works. You start with that glass bowl, you flame on, and then you inhale nice and smooth so the smoke goes through 3 different filtration and cooling systems. Now, if pre-rolls is your thing, you can use the Weegits filter that a pre-roll fits into perfectly. That's right, or even a chillum. The more filters, the smoother the draw. Best of all is the price. You can get all this, or one or the other, for just a few bucks. It'll cool your smoke and you'll give your lungs a break. Now, add in the code of PCMTV and you get 15% off. So just go to Weegits.com and check out the best way to enjoy a cooler smoke with less coughing and hacking and more peace of mind. All that resin and tar is collected in the polyurethane filters that are easy to clean with soap, water, and a few Q-tips. Your lungs will thank you, and so will I.
As a broker, we have access to many cannabis carriers. So I will go in with 2 or 3 quotes for people. The quotes might be $20,000 for one, $22,000 for another, $17,500 for another. Pretty close among the 3. What I tell people is it's not the pricing, it's what's included and not included, meaning exclusions. An exclusion in layman's terms is just something that's not included. It's not on the menu. So it's just not included. But if you don't know that, if no one shows you that on page 71 of a 150-page policy, you're not going to know. No one knows. I never met one person that says they read an insurance policy. If you do, I got some property in Florida for you.
Weed Talk and In the Weeds are 2 productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first.
So the reality of the matter is, big banks and small banks are going to be different in a lot of ways. And they're both going to have their advantages and disadvantages. For a business like cannabis, you really have to have an integral knowledge of that business and a real granular knowledge of that business and the players involved in it. And that's why if you look at the banks that are successful to play in this space in Massachusetts, they are smaller banks that are very heavy, intensified personal touch, human communication, where you don't get a lot of that with the bigger banks.